Welcome to part 3, the final installment of our exclusive 3-part interview with Britney Spears' ex-manager, Sam Lutfi. If you missed the previous installments, be sure to click up here. This annotation will take you to a playlist to watch in proper order. Or you can go to our website, PopcornedPlanet.com, click sign up, watch the exclusive content, including the uncensored full versions of these interviews where Sam revealed a lot more. In 2007, the world watched a superstar unravel, and the media turned it into a sport.
Staying up all night?
Pop icon Britney Spears was hunted, chased by mobs of paparazzi, dissected by tabloids that treated her pain like entertainment. Every tear was a photo op. The head shaving, the hospital visits, the custody battles with K-Fed, the chaos that ended with her family seizing control through a conservatorship. Looking back now, it was terrifying. A cultural feeding frenzy that pushed a young mother to the edge and made millions off her suffering. And right there, the height of it all, stood one man, Sam Lutfi. To some, he was the manipulative Svengali who fueled the fire. To others, the only one who actually tried to help. Lutfi always insisted he blamed the family, that they were the ones controlling, not protecting, and that all he ever wanted was Britney's freedom, something that years later seemed to prove true.
If she doesn't follow orders, they'll take her kids away. When did somebody kind of wake up and question this?
For years, his voice was silenced. His name was dragged through the headlines.
What kind of person is this Sam Lutfi?
Low-life loser.
But tonight, Sam Lutfi finally speaks. What really happened behind the cameras? This is his side of the story. And this is the Popcorn Interview. I think I speak for a lot of Britney fans in that there's a lot of events that we'd love to get your perspective of that you haven't been able to share. And let's start with Lynn. You guys sued each other. She alleged that you were drugging Britney.
Yep.
And then it turned out you said it was Lynn who was actually drugging Britney. Can you finally sort of speak on that?
Yeah, so the first time that they had taken Britney to rehab, a detox center prior to when I was involved fully, they had an intervention. And at the intervention, Lynn was there, Allie was there. And I know Allie publicly tweeted, because I put out there an email that I had with my lawyer saying, hey, can you verify that this is true, that Lynn crushed up, I think it was his Xanax pill, and put it in Britney's drink secretly to hand it to her to subdue her and then drive her off to detox. And Allie tweeted, she goes, yes, that's accurate because Allie was there. So I was not there for that moment, but I was told about that. And then, she was just, I think, passed out, and that's how they got her into detox. She literally crushed up a pill, according to Allie, and put it in a drink. So come to, her allegations about me, where it's like I was crushing up. I don't know what pills I was crushing. What do you mean? I mean, she had visitation with those kids. So from the day that I started working with Britney and the day that I was involved in her life, she was being drug tested randomly by the state twice a week. So you didn't know when they were coming. And that was the only way that she could maintain a visitation with the children. It was something that we just agreed to. It's like, all right, I'm not doing any drugs, so screw it. Let them.
Yeah, I've got nothing to hide.
I got nothing to hide, so let's do it. It was just annoying because sometimes you're out shopping, you're out at Starbucks, whatever, and they call, they're like, we're going to be at the house in 10 minutes, and you have to rush back. And if you're late, they go, not there. But then you get to run back to the office and take it. So then they don't call it a fail. It just says you weren't there for the original appointment. I think that happened maybe once or twice. But every single one that we took, she passed. There was nothing. So what was I crushing and putting in there? Narcissists tend to project. They tend to project on others what they're doing, their devious crimes. So it's interesting that she, Lynn claimed something I did is what she was doing. And that's natural. In the world of psychology, people know that narcissists project their own crimes all the time on other people. But I mean, I have evidence, we passed every drug test. That's the only reason why the kids were there. So unless I have some power to manipulate a drug test, these women would come from the state and go into the bathroom with her and take a urine analysis and drive it back to a lab. And then the results would go to Kevin's dissolution attorneys, and then they would look at it and say, all right, and if there was, a fail or a negative, they would, we'd use this against her. And they were never able to use anything against us. And that occurred all the way to the very end. So all the way up to the front door of the conservatorship. So never failed a drug test. So there was no drugs. It was impossible, So yeah, those allegations are out there. That's what I sued for. It's defamation, and I won.
I mean, they also want a restraining order stuff. Like, what happened in that period? Like, what was the takeaway?
they got a restraining order as well, correct?
They got it first, yeah.
Yeah, and
They got
so
the restraining order first.
what was your takeaway after that?
About at this point, 10, 15 restraining orders, they would get anybody to go, hey, if you had interactions with Sam, was he a horrible guy? We'll pay for it. We'll fly you out. We'll get a restraining. So it's like, this was their lobby. Let's just pile them on. And so I was like, I'm not going to go fight these. Screw them. They're civil orders. They mean nothing. Let them pan out. Like, if this is their only defense, fine. At least no one's coming to my door and trying to shoot blow my brains out. So it's like, this is what they want to do. They're so desperate to maintain control. They didn't want, and this was used to mainly discredit me. They didn't want me to come out and say, hey, Britney's fine. She's normal. She can handle her own life. And you guys are all making up lies. Well, no, that's the guy that crushed up pills. Remember? That's the guy that kept her locked up at home, which, I mean, she was driving up to the day of the 5150. So when they go, he dismantled cars. What do you mean? She was driving minutes before the order was taken. So all these things were debunked, and this is why I sued. But more so, when we had the ability to sue, my lawyer said, hey, you could actually get her to testify and stand publicly, and then she could actually speak her mind. So that was the goal. That was the goal. So we strung it on, because they would come out and they would offer these massive amounts of money to settle, and I would just refuse them, because I wanted to get this to court. I wanted her to testify and come out and speak her mind. And in my mind, I thought, all right, she'll get out there and just, bust through these shackles and tell the world what she really feels, and then boom, the conservatorship would be over. But you're dealing with, a ton of money on her side, a record label, this conservatorship is now a massive lobby, and then me. So, but I was able to just continue battling for over 10 years. It felt like I was fighting this battle alone. And then people would get fired from the camp, and they'd call me up, and they're like, they'd be in my kitchen. People I'd see on the news, hang out with her, and then now they're in my kitchen. I got fired. They're horrible people. I said, all right, well, you're kind of useless to me now. You're better when you were there. I mean, when Britney was asking you to get out, you should have done something. I think at that time, they're being paid a lot of money, and so keep things quiet.
I want to go through some more specific moments, especially to do a video, but look, I think it's just important we go back and just remember even 2007 in general. It was a crazy time with the paparazzi. As I was rewatching footage from that era, it's not even like that anymore. It was like a hunt for blood. It was brutal, and I think people are now looking back at that era and realizing, wow, it was really too much for her.
It was.
Tell me about the experience.
Being the most photographed woman on the planet, right? Most Googled person on the planet at that time. There was no privacy. There was no sense of any normalcy in your life. But so I was there, and she had one assistant stealing a dress, all this kind of stuff. So there was no more assistants. There was no more bodyguards. It was just me and her. And I'm thinking, all right, how can I create some sort of normalcy or bring, it was really difficult. Going out, getting in the car, going to just Ralph's or a supermarket, getting out, and then you have, ladders and helicopters and tons of paparazzi and the flashes, and then every now and then there's some person, you can't even see them in the mix, who would say, oh, you're looking a little thick, just really demeaning, horrible things. And
to get a reaction for their photos.
And then I look at her face, and I can see her just shut down. And it's like, I don't want to shop anymore. And then we get in the car, and she'd zoom back home, and I wouldn't say anything. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Tell her, hey, just get over it. Just grow some thick skin. So every day I would contemplate, how can I combat this? What do I do? Desperate times, desperate measures, man. I walked up to the summit, to the gate. There's all hundreds of people out there, and the gate opened, and I said, hey, I need to talk to you guys. And I need everyone to put the cameras down. And
did they?
Yeah. Because
you weren't Britney, so all right, fine.
I opened the gates for them. I let them into the gates, as long as they left their cameras in their car and their phones. I said, we need to have a discussion. And so they're like, all right, I mean, anything to get an inside story,
Yeah.
And they walked past the gate, and they all came in, and they left everything there. And I shook their hands. I was like, hey, what's your name? Whatever. Look, chasing us down 100 miles an hour is unsafe. Someone's going to die. Saying negative things about somebody's body is just the worst thing. Yeah, that's you're murdering someone's soul. This needs to stop. What do you need from me in order to stop this behavior? And it's like, well, let's compile some rules. And I remember just having them all out in this lawn in the summit, going, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe I'm just crazy.
Paparazzi summit.
Yeah. And I thought, here, how about this? Well, instead of chasing us down, you're going to find us anyway. There's no way you can get away from the paparazzi. There's no way. You already know when you get in the car, you're going to be chased. And she likes to drive, and I want to live. And it's like, I don't want to get hit by them and all that. So it's like, all right. So the agreement was, from now on, the best that I can, give me somebody's number, and you'll be the lead guy to everyone else, and I'll text you where we're going. And the agreement is, give us some space. No high-speed chases. Anything negative that comes out of anyone's mouth, we get in the car, we go home, I'll never give you that information again. Can we agree to that? They were arguing, how we can't control these guys, we don't know, whatever. So, I mean, they would bully each other. We have to do this, guys, we have to do this, because they're competing for these pictures and stuff. But they all finally agree. And I said, all right, if ever we agree, we shake hands, great. Let me walk you down the hill, and I'll take you to the house so you can even meet her yourself. So I called her, I said, hey, I'm coming in, I'm walking in with a paparazzi. And she's like, wait, what? This is like the thing on
My biggest fear, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, I think I might be crazy. I think this is the only way. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, I think if we meet them and we put a name to them,
Yeah.
and you know their names, let's see what it's about. She said, give me a minute to get dressed. All right. So we wait outside, and then she just opens the door and she's dressed. She's like, hi, guys. And they walked in. I was kind of like, pat down, make sure there was no cameras or phones. And nobody had, iPhone hasn't come out yet. So, any phone you would have would be tick, tick, Walked in. She had a big pot of sweet tea already on the fire, earlier. So she was pouring it in ice. And they walk in and the house is just immaculate. It's clean. It's gorgeous. Isn't there a story where we have like a sex dungeon or whatever? So Britney gives them a tour of every square inch of that 7,000 square foot house. It was hilarious. So we're pouring sweet tea for everybody. She gets down on the piano and she's walking up to everyone. She's like, what's your name? Felipe, Mike, what? Remembering it. What do? You have kids? You have this? Giving everybody sweet tea. It wasn't that we humanized them. It was.
Yeah, it was Britney was humanized. Like, she's sweet.
Yeah.
And it worked for a bit.
It worked. No, it worked. I think at that point, they had a personal connection with her. And it was interesting to see. So they left, and I thought, I could be the biggest idiot for doing this. But next morning, we got up. I texted the number. I said, I don't remember where we're going. I just said, hey, we're going here in about 20 minutes. So we drove out, and there was no car chase. Really weird. And we're driving down Coldwater Canyon. Can we cut that? Sorry, man. Not expecting to do that.
Take your time, man.
We were driving down Coldwater Canyon, and there was no one chasing us. And it's just like one of the first times that there was just this powerful, she just turned to me and was like, thank you. And it was very visceral in the sense like, oh, I actually did something good. It felt good. Felt like, all right, finally we're making some headway into solving, one of the biggest issues in her life, Remember that week we went shopping to Kitson. I think there's a video somewhere in the middle of the night. And by now she's memorized everybody's names. There was no more fear. I remember she got a gift because she knew one of the paparazzi just had a baby. So it changed the atmosphere. They were no longer the adversaries walking outside. They started helping us. They started bringing us Starbucks drinks if we couldn't get out because of the traffic. She was now humanized. They realized the harm that they were creating and that she's a human being that they actually authentically liked. And no one ever said anything negative anymore. No one called her out. No one said anything demeaning about her body or figure, what she looked like. Sometimes they'd bring the camera and they'd let her delete pictures she didn't like. And
this is around the time you started wearing the TMZ shirts, yeah?
Yeah. We went because TMZ sent them that and I said, we'll be paparazzi for Halloween. So because it was that comfortable now.
Yeah.
I mean, we took the hardest thing in her life and turned it into something that we can, wisecrack about. And, it's like, it took a lot of strength from her to allow these, what we thought were enemies, into her home. But the reaction changed a lot. We're friendly with them. It was like kind of refreshing to see some of them sometimes, get an update on what was going on in their lives. And they would sometimes give us news. Hey, do you know this song is #1? No, we didn't know that. Like what? Oh, great. And that's the moment that you saw her interacting with them, and it was fun. And I remember she had a flat tire and she gets out and goes, Felipe or whatever, can you give me a ride home? And the paparazzi rode her, drove her home. Wow. And it's like that dome of like fright was gone. So I was like, all right, cross that one off the list. What's next? Yeah.
It seems like the thing that couldn't be fixed was the family, because you say that story, it's amazing. And then I go and see that footage from the 5150, the first one. Mm-hmm. That footage is just heartbreaking. I know Britney doesn't like it and I hate to share it, but I just feel like it's important. It's like history to see how bad it got. And even though you made that summit, when she was in that ambulance, to see the anarchy and the people zooming in the ambulance window, it's just horrifying to watch.
Yeah.
I want to go to that day because it seems like things were going better. Things got better.
Yeah, I think the amount of photographers doubled or tripled that night. So there were people that we have never seen, not known. So these
helicopters, right?
Helicopters. I mean, yeah, way before drones existed. I got a call from Ann Kiley, her lawyer, who was previously Laura Wasser, and then switched to Ann Kiley. And Ann Kiley called, and it was during the holiday season. I was home for Christmas. And I got a call saying, hey, there's an incident at the house. And I'm like, what? So I tried to call Britney. I wasn't able to get a hold of her. And I got in the car and I just drove up to the summit. Got up there, got up to the gate. I've never seen this type of mess before. Past the gate, go in there, and there's fire trucks waiting outside. And I walk in there, like, do you live here? I said, yeah, I live here. What's going on? Well, we need to gain entrance. For what? I'm going to go there. What's going on, So I walk, go into the house. I'm like, you guys got to stay out. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, what's going on? And I run upstairs, and Britney is just in the bathroom, finishing up giving one of the kids a bath. Jaden, I think. So she's like, hey, I asked to relay to Kevin, I need another hour, because we were late. So I wanted to bathe them and put these new outfits on him. And he said, it's okay. I ran downstairs. Kevin's bodyguard's there. He's got his big SUV. And I said, hey, she said that she could have another hour. Who called us in? He said, not me, man. I don't know. I'm just here. I go, but he's allowed every week. He comes to pick up the kids. So he's allowed entry. He can go into the house, grab the kids or anything. He's sitting outside.
The bodyguard.
Yeah. And I look back in the other car and there's a Mercedes and there's Mark Kaplan. So it's her lawyer out there. I go, oh.
Kevin is lawyer, Mark Kaplan, yeah.
So I said, oh no. And so I try to call Mark. No one's picking up a call. Try to call Kevin. It's like, wait a minute. I pretty much got confirmation from the bodyguard that somebody had agreed that she could have an extra hour. Mind you, I was not there. So she had a court-ordered baby monitor that was there, supervisor, and the nanny, and they all told me the same thing, that, hey, she wanted an extra hour, and they granted it to her, and then they pulled a fast one on her. They said, oh, you're past the hour. It's not turned in. The cops are coming, whatever. And so I went in, I said, hey, they're going to do this. And she just was like, I refused to be treated this way. It's not going to happen. I got an hour. I'm getting that hour. And I thought, this is not going to end well. And so
once again, using the kids against her.
And then they ordered, it's a certain time. You need to go in there and grab those children. And the only way to get him away from her was they had to call in a 5150 psychiatric hold on her, saying that she refused to hand over the kids, when that's not true at all. It's not true. It's not true. There was nothing dangerous. There was nothing nefarious going on. She was dressed. She bathes those kids every time. Before she sends them back to Kevin, she always made sure they had a bath, they got a meal, they were read Curious George, and they had new clothes. She would always wrap up stuff so give back to Kevin, you know? Never speaking ill will of Kevin. Nothing. So it's like asking an extra hour. When is that a crime? Now, there probably could have been a more constructive way of doing it, whether an email. We didn't have an assistant at the time. So maybe if I was there and I said, all right, I could have emailed that to Ann and Ann shot that off to Mark, so we'd had a paper trail of that. But the fact that she called or just told the bodyguard, I think they knew that there was no paper trail, and so they can just devise whatever story that they wanted.
And plus the history of things that were happening with Britney and her moments, it all was sort of adding up. It seemed like someone was just keeping score and waiting for a moment to come in. Yeah. Was that how it felt?
Yeah. Yep. And she was gurneyed off to Cedars-Sinai, and I got in the car and followed the ambulance down there. And I remember walking into the hospital, and then she got up. She's like, well, I mean, I asked Sam, I don't know what I'm here for. I was just, totally normal. So they run a battery of tests. And I go, what do you guys think? What's going on? I said, I can't get her. I said, no, you can't be here. And then I turn around, her dad's there, threatening to kill me. And the doctor's talking to me, and he comes up and threatens to kill the doctor because she's just talking to me. And the doctor had come out and said, well, there's nothing. There's no alcohol in her system. There's nothing. We're going to release her. Oh, good. Let me take her home. And then Adnan was there. He showed up. So, and I didn't know at the time he was talking to the parents, so they let him in. And so he ended up taking her home. They released her. They had nothing to hold her back for. They had nothing psychiatric to hold her there. There was nothing in the blood panel. I think it was just her just saying, I'm not going to be treated like this somewhere. These are my children. I'm paying for all these lawyers that are telling me what to do, and I want a fucking another hour to bathe my fucking kids.
So in that period too, there's a lot of, she was on drugs. She was out of her mind.
There was
nothing with like that.
No, you would not let a patient out of a 5150 18 hours later, overnight. I mean, they were just going to release her the moment they got there, when the panel came in. And her dad, everyone was like, no, you got to keep her in as long. And they did not. She was in there for less than 24 hours, I believe. Don't quote me, but it was they had a 3 or 4 day hold, and and it was quick. They let her out. So came home, went back, and they used this ordeal to go back to court and strip visitation of the kids. They took the kids away. And then I was like, back to step one. Here we are all over again. So you're using the kids. What do we do now? And that was difficult. It came up for New Year's, so January of 2008 was just tough. Because at this point, Britney had felt like, hey, you came in, you helped me with my kids back, you helped me with all the lawyers, you helped me get this album done, all this stuff done. And now I lost them again, and it's like the day that I wasn't there. And so, at that point in January, I think the first Saturday that rolled by after the first 5150 is when the kids were supposed to come, and they didn't show up. That good.
As a parent, that's literally the worst, and it's like that's what really brought me into this story, this case of knowing they were using them against her. And so now she's lost the kids, so she's defeated. And then there's another 8150, right? So what happens next?
Now they have her where they want her to be, and I'm just completely, I don't know what to do. Looking back, I mean, I'm young and dumb. It's like, well, I'm trusting too many people I shouldn't have trusted, including her mom and so on and so on. She's just being backstabbed by everybody, They used to be backstabbed by the paparazzi, now they're helping, Like, all right, well, talking to the lawyers, what do we need to do to regain? I mean, we need to have these kids back, I mean, she was unlawfully restrained and taken away, and here she is, and she's fine, and I'm with her in the lawyer's office, and she's going off, that this can't happen again, I'm not going to be without my kids. The pressure on this woman with the world's attention And then no family coming in to help her. And any minute they get to just malign her or just stab her in the back or sell a story, they would take it. There was no one to turn to. And I'm just thinking, what do you do? You know, who do you turn to? You know, where do you go? And this is why when people are jumping down Justin Timberlake, at least he was there. At least that guy would call. And he had resources that were powerful. It was comforting. But no one in her family came, except one of her cousins, Jessica, but she didn't have any money or power, and she would call all the time. So if I can do anything, I'll get rid of them all, send them all to jail for her, you know. I hate them. And her dad, too, which is her father's brother who passed away, and her grandfather. So I was talking to all of them, and they just felt powerless because they're all afraid of her father. At that point, I didn't know what to do. I was at a loss. I'm like, well, you know, and at any other aspect you can churn, there's cousins, there's a mom, there's somebody, some siblings. I've ran out of all the resources at this point. And so I really just didn't know what to do. But I didn't give up. The conservatorship happened, it took over. The second 5150 was also another construct, because that's when I didn't know anybody was in town. Lynn happened to be in LA. The dad was in LA, Lou Taylor, they were all in LA. And just maneuvering things, and here I am calling Lynn, begging her to come to LA, not knowing that she's already here. So they had the psychiatrist come and say, all right, well, you can't drive. The psychiatrist, you can't use her car anymore. And that's how the second one started. She said, well, no one's gonna tell me what to do. She got in the car and drove off with one of the paparazzi guys to go meet up with Adnan. And so I wasn't there, and then I showed up and Lynn was there, and I was like, what's going on? It was all this weird stuff. And they convinced the psychiatrist to call in a 5150 saying she's going to endanger somebody driving that car.
Wow.
And that's how they did it. So I waited outside. Allie was with me. I was sitting in the car in the front with Allie. I said, I'm not going to watch this happen again. Well, her mom's in there just, and Allie couldn't handle it. She was just a broken woman at that point. She said, I don't want to see this happen. And I was in the car with her. I said, what do we do? And what do we do? What do we do? And nothing. I don't know what we can do. Tons of people showing up. Cars started pouring in. And I ran into the house, and I turned to Brandon, and I just said, they're coming. And do you want to come? Should we get out? And she just looked at her mom, and she's like, no. You know what? I think there was I remember just looking at, she was just staring at her mom going, you just stabbed me in the back. I'll never forget this. And she was just staring at her mom. And then everyone started pouring in. And then I took off. I went into the car with Allie and just put my head down. I thought, I'm not watching this happen again.
What do you want people to remember this phase as? What is your goal, even after this interview? What do you hope people take away from this?
I think everybody has to wipe these lenses off and how they view her and reassess what it took to get to where you're at now. And try to put yourself in her shoes and imagine how you would have come out, how, you know, what you were resorted to, and seeing that she's expressing her freedom in her own personal way at this age. She's missing 15 years of her life. No one knows what that's like, you know. I think everyone needs to turn a whole new page and stop criticizing, so that she has to keep turning off her goddamn comments. And so the fan pool is a fan pool rather than a cesspool, you know, and just give her support. I mean, she's done the best that she can for the public, for the audience, for her fans. And it's a tough world for her. Well, you know, it's really, really, really hard. And it's worse now than it probably ever has been. The fact that her kids have been alienated is her biggest fear. Always been her biggest fear.
There's even more to watch of our exclusive interview with Sam Lutfi, so hit that subscribe button as well as that bell for alerts and smash that thumbs up. Also, leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought of the interview. You can also click the playlist there on the left to watch all the episodes in order, or click the button on the right to support us by watching the uncensored versions over on PopcornedPlanet.com. Sign up today.